So now take a look at the actual task management system. Part of this course is to focus on rather simple to apply or easy and fast to apply task management techniques. So on the other hand, there's the possibility to really apply the getting things done technique by David Allen, which is part of another course of this series here, but we would rather focus on very easily and fast to apply techniques that are as well very properly, very feasible for teams, as well as it's often very hard to introduce a certain technique into a team where you have multiple parts, multiple team players and persons that need to understand the system and use it correctly. So here it is very favorable to apply very simple techniques, easily to understand and to maintain. Because that's key as well. If you introduce a certain task management system, then you have to maintain it, of course, to ensure it's applied correctly. So first of all, what's our goal? Our goal is to basically never forget anything again. That's the primary task of a task management system. And of course, with such a task management system, you're able to monitor your progress. You monitor the actual tasks you've already done, that are due. And that's our goal. And therefore, we'll take a look at two techniques, two systems that can be applied by yourself or in a team. The first one is the DNA6 information system, or as well called memo card system, infotop system, DAISY. There are multiple names for it. So we take a look at this one and a second one. And this DNA6 information system is as well very helpful if you would like to combine it with the Getting Things Done by David Allen system, but it's not necessary to combine this. It's just an idea here. So we'll take a look at this at first, and the second one is the Kanban board, which is one of the mostly used and very widely spread techniques and systems for teams to maintain the progress of a project, basically. So it's a very simple to apply, very easy to understand technique, and very effective system to maintain tasks and to have a very effective task management for your team or for yourself, of course, as well. First off, there is the DNA6 information system, or as I've well said, that it could be as well called DAISY, memo card, infotop. There are several names for it, but the primary intention is that you order everything that you have on your list, so all the tasks, projects, etc., into colored transparent folders, so small folders where you have some sticky notes or DNA6 sized, so pretty small cards where you take down everything that's important, so where you have your notes on and so on. And the DNA6 information system is based on the 7 colored folders that are shown here in the middle. First of all, you can, as I've already said, combine this technique together with another information system, so with the Getting Things Done technique by David Allen. So if you take your time and get into the Getting Things Done system from David Allen, then you'll see that there are several lists to maintain tasks and several projects with several goals there, and they can as well be exchanged by those transparent folders that you find here, which is a very nice system and very nice idea to get a better overview and faster overview, if you take it so, then for maintaining all your tasks, your goals, etc. So just an idea that the combination is possible, and may be favorable in your specific case. Well, if a new task comes in, then you have to decide in which of those colored folders your information goes. So basically, these 7 folders are there to keep track on the things that matter at the moment, that are in progress, that are done, and maintain as well the information that you collect for reference purposes. So first of all, there is a red folder, a red transparent folder, where everything that's currently in progress or on your to-do list will be put in. So you take down everything that's coming in, every information, every task. You take down this onto a small card. So take it a DIN A6 sized card, for example, and then you put it into this red folder. So this folder contains a stack of different nodes, and those nodes should be progress because they are your tasks. You as well can schedule your tasks then and take down onto those cards when you plan to do this, when you plan to fulfill the task. But that only contains what is currently on your to-do list and in progress. If you say, okay, I'll do this later, I'll postpone this, then there is the yellow folder here. So the second one. This folder contains everything that is not done yet and is not directly in progress. So you put into your yellow folder multiple envelopes, and each envelope represents one project that you're working on. So every real subject, area in life, or whatsoever what you'd consider to be a project, every set of tasks, or every task that's made up of multiple subtasks, that could be a project as well, will be represented by a separate envelope that you put into this yellow folder. And all those cards that are not currently on your to-do list and not currently in progress should be put into the appropriate folder in the appropriate envelope into this yellow folder. So now, if you have information for reference, then mostly you'll put this into the blue folder, into the third one. So there you collect those information that you need pretty often. So different names with their addresses, so the contact details with phone numbers as well. If you need a map or a specific schedule with deadlines, those information that you have to keep track on will be put for reference purposes into this blue important folder. For the less important information that you want to keep, you have the white folder. There you can put in some knowledge information, so some facts as well, and figures, some background information, everything that you need from time to time, but not that regularly, not that often. That should be put into the second reference folder here, so the white folder. Now it comes to rather new tasks or ideas here. Not real to-dos, not real tasks, and not only for reference purposes, but if you have a new idea in mind, that where you decided I don't want to care about this at the moment directly, then you put this into the orange folder. So there you have some new ideas, a vision, something where you think, that would be a cool project or would be a cool idea, but I don't plan to do this immediately. Then put this into an orange folder. Here as well, if you think that it's a project, so a task with multiple subtasks, then take an envelope that represents your project and put multiple cards into this envelope to collect them and bundle them. Now, next one is the purple folder. The purple folder comprises or contains your long-term goals. So here your personal goals, so for your personal development, for example, for a specific qualification or whatsoever, or a vision for your future, and as well, if you have them already, those strategies to get there. So that strategy descriptions, so to say. Those long-term goals and perspectives and visions should be put into the purple folder. Everything that you have done into, so considering the red folder there, the things that you have done can, in the first place, put into the appropriate envelope into the yellow folder. And if a project is done, if something is ready, then you shouldn't remove and trash everything, but to archive it if you think it's necessary to have it in the future. So as well, for bigger projects, you have those envelopes collecting all the tasks that you plan to do or that you did. So to archive these, take this envelope and put it into the last folder here, so the green folder, which is your archive. Again, here each project has its own envelope that you put from the yellow folder to the green one. Every larger task can be as well put into the green folder if you plan to archive it. If it's not that necessary to archive it, then trash it, of course. But this basically is it. So, of course, the colors of these folders are interchangeable, so it's up to you which color you prefer taking for this method. But I would suggest to at least follow the rule that the red folder should be used for the currently active and important things to care about at the moment, and the yellow one for projects that you are currently working on or are not with tasks that are not done yet and not currently on a to-do list. So to have at least these two, and all the other maps, all the other folders should be should be colored differently, or at least you should be able to distinguish them properly. So maybe those reference purposed folders, so the blue one and the white one here in this case, could be bundled into one section with similar colors, but you have to distinguish the things that you use pretty often, so regularly, and those information that you don't need too often. So you should distinguish them. And the orange and purple one as well is something that is very future oriented. So with your personal goals and ideas for the future, they can be bundled as well with the same or similar color, of course. And the archive doesn't matter how it really looks here. In most cases, I would say as well that a transparent folder is not too sufficient in this case here. It is rather good. It would be rather good idea to have more of a box or something like that, or a shelf where you put everything that you want to archive in. So well, that's it. The A6 information system, DAISY, memo card, call it like you want, but the ordering of everything that matters to you in differently colored and distinguishable folders. Now the Kanban board comes from the Japanese word Kanban, which means card or board. Well, so meaning that the title here, Kanban board, is rather a board or a cardboard, call it what you want, call it like you want. But is a technique that is really feasible and appropriate for working on projects in teams. Of course, it's very easy to apply, and as well a good idea to do it for own projects where you are the single team member here, or the single one working on this project. But of course, as well, it's a good idea to use it in teams, as it's pretty simple to apply. Well, the methodology basically means that you have all your tasks that are there to fulfill should be represented by cards, where you take down the task, as well as collection of tasks could be taken down onto those cards as well. So something that you have to do, and then you put it into multiple columns. And those columns represent the state of each of those tasks. We'll take a look at this in a moment. As I've said, it's suitable for working in teams, for projects. You can, and it's something that is pretty oftenly used in the software development area. So for software development projects, it's very nice to organize the development of specific features of a software that we are planning to program, because there you can set those different states each of the features have to go through, and that can be represented by this Kanban technique very easily. So we'll take a look at it in a moment. Very important is each task will go through all of the columns that you prepared. So here it is. Here is an example of the simplest version of a Kanban board. We have 3 different columns for the 3 basic states of each task that you have to fulfill. So first of all, there is a to-do stack or to-do column that comprises all of the tasks that you have to do to fulfill the project goals. And as well, you take down the responsibilities of each of those tasks as well onto each of those cards. So you take one card that represents a task, something that you have to do during the project to fulfill the project, and you take down who will care for this. If you're the only one working on this project, well, then it's easy that because you only have one card, or the card, and you are responsible for this, who else, right? So you put all those cards into the to-do column, and during the project you take those cards, those tasks, and then they switch into the state of doing. So if you decided to take one task and to work on it, then you move this card of this task onto the next column, which is called doing, because this task is now in progress. So you have in this doing column as well those cards with a task that are currently in progress. And if your project if your card with a task on it is fulfilled, well, then you move it over to the done column here. So you maintain the 3 basic states: to do, in progress or doing, and done. This is the simplest way. And the first situation, to the beginning of a project, then everything that you plan to do will be put in the to-do column. And if the project is ready, then everything is onto the done, or you put everything through doing to the done column. Well, this method is pretty agile, as it's possible to, during the project, add as well several cards into the to-do list. If you noticed, okay, there is a task that we missed at the beginning, and add this later on. This technique is so easy and so easy to understand that it's as well pretty straightforward to apply this technique in Teams. So I guess now you know, or now you see what I meant with it, as it's so easy to apply when you only have those 3 states. But of course, you can as well add multiple additional columns that represent different states of those project of your task that you're fulfilling during the project. So take a look at this. In the area of software development, as I've said, the Kanban technique is pretty oftenly used. As well, and especially in the area of agile project management or agile software management, where you consider your project not to be straightforward like the waterfall model, so you know everything in advance and go through the drafting process, planning process, and then the implementation of a software, and afterwards the testing of the software, and afterwards it's ready. So you consider the software development process as something pretty dynamic and agile, and therefore you add during the process of fulfilling the project, or you add several tasks to this Kanban board. As I've said, you put it into the to-do column over and over again. So, and now software related, there it is the case that each software artifact that we have to work on is not just handled as something that has to be done, something that is in progress and that is done, but there are several other states that could play a role here. So we have our to-do list is called a backlog in software development. So we have something that we have to do, put it in the backlog. Then if the task, the implementation part has been designed, so prepared, then this is ready for implementation. So we move this task of implementing a software feature to the ready column, then give it over or hand it over to the coding state, to coding column, where it says, okay, we are currently working on the implementation of this. Afterwards, we have to test our code. So we have to test this feature. So it's in a testing column. And we have to confirm afterwards that the testing is successful. And this confirmation part is something that, of course, oftenly the customer as well is responsible for. And then, if everything is fine, this software feature, will be handed over to the done column, because then it's ready and it's done, right? So this is the Kanban technique. Very straightforward, pretty easy to apply, ideal for projects with multiple team members, but as well with a very good overview, so that's easy to apply this for personal projects as well. Okay, so let's sum up what we've learned. So we took a look at 2 techniques to manage your tasks, to keep on track of everything, to monitor the progress of projects or whatsoever, or your personal to-do lists. And therefore, we took a look at the DNA6 information system, where it's basically where you see that it's basically a filing system for all types of information and tasks for your reference material that you use pretty often, or use just from time to time to keep track on your personal long-term goals as well. And as well, of course, to additionally manage the currently important stuff, the urgent stuff, and the projects you're currently working on, but which are not that in focus at the moment, of course. It's very suitable to combine this with the Getting Things Done technique by David Allen for a more systematic storing of project material or reference material. And secondly, we took a look at a very easy to apply technique for teams for project work in teams, the Kanban board, which is very easy to understand, straightforward technique. We have multiple columns that represent the state of each task, and we have at least 3 columns to represent the state of a task that is to do. Yeah? So the open tasks, those tasks that are in progress, so the doing column, and tasks that are fulfilled, so the done column. It's very easy to monitor the progress of a project using this technique, and it's very easy to explain this technique to others, so it's straightforward to use it in larger teams where you have to show this technique and make the team members use this system properly as well. So therefore it's very feasible, easy to use, proper technique. Well, in another course, we can take a look at other task management techniques. So I've showed you 2 techniques that are very easy to understand, straightforward, but the classic technique for task management is the getting things done strategy as proposed by David Allen, which I'll show you into another course. But the next step, if you're okay with this now, then the next step is to focus on ways to keep up your motivation and to overcome procrastination, so to avoid postponing tasks unnecessarily and to focus more your time, so to bundle tasks in a more smart way to be more productive in shorter time and to get more into this flow state of working where you get things done very, very fast and keep up on your motivation here. So we'll take a look at this into another course. Thank you. Welcome to the 4th part of our time management methodology training, as well about task management strategies, but basically focused on the getting things done methodology that's proposed by David Allen. So we'll focus on that in this course. Time management in general comprises 4 phases. If you already watched the other courses of this series, you know that it all starts with the identification of all the tasks that you have to do, this and comprising as well systems or methods to collect the tasks that you have to do systematically, which is really the beginning of all time management strategies, because you have to know in advance what you are going to do, of course, in a project or so. Well, the second phase then is the ordering of these identified tasks based on the relevance. So giving priorities in the right way so that you can distinguish the more relevant and important tasks from the less relevant tasks, or even those tasks that are not actually worth doing, so that you can eliminate before proceeding in your time management strategy. Well, in this course we would like to focus, or we want to focus on the aspect of scheduling those tasks, so to smartly set time appointments or find time slots where you want to fulfill the task that you've identified and prioritized. And in the 4th phase, in the 4th step, you need a way to keep track of your record of your progress by monitoring your tasks, by monitoring your progress using a proper task management strategy. In another course, in the former course, we focused on rather easy to apply and as well appropriate techniques for teams regarding the task management. So there we took a look at the A4 information system technique, which is based on differently colored folders where you put every information, every fact, and as well every task and project in, as well as your your vision or personal goals, so the long-term tasks, if you want to call it like this, and the Kanban technique, based on multiple columns that represent the state each task goes through, or so going from the first state of being a to-do, getting over to the doing phase, so where you say, okay, this task is in progress, and finally the done state, where all those fulfilled and finished tasks will get into this category. So now we want to focus on getting things done, which is the one of the major methodologies, one of the major systems that are taught during all of the time management courses you'll find out there. And this system is really worth to take a look at, because this is the basis or the foundation for a lot of the other task management techniques that are out there. It's pretty helpful to understand how this system actually works. Although it's pretty complex, you might rather modify this technique for your own purpose and for your own system. Well, in another course, and besides the 4 phases of time management, it's as well necessary to know how to keep up your motivation and how to avoid postponing tasks where it's not necessary. So we'll take a look at, in the last part of this time management course series, at overcoming procrastination. Okay, so let's dive into the task management section here, where we're gonna take a look at the Getting Things Done methodology by David Allen. And in this section, we have just one system that we want to take a look at, so the Getting Things Done, or GTD system, proposed by David Allen. This is the workflow, a process, a system that we're going to take a look at in detail. Well, the main goal of all task management strategies is to ensure that you never forget anything. That's the purpose of a task management. And of course, as well, having a system that enables you to monitor your own progress related to specific projects, for example, so regarding your to-do list. Let's directly dive in. Getting Things Done is a system that is proposed by David Allen, as I've told you, and the goal is to efficiently and with as less stress as possible, as few stress as possible, you should be able to work, to concentrate on the actual work than concentrating on how to order all your different tasks and how to manage them properly, so that you can ensure everything will be done and there's nothing you will forget. Well, therefore, we want to have a system that will turn into a kind of automatism for your personal life, on your daily basis, or as well on a weekly basis. So a system that manages all the organizational stuff for you, so that it's very easy for you to forget about this and just concentrate on working. The workflow as such comprises 5 steps. And these 5 steps are a bit like oriented onto the time management phases I've shown you. So to the identification and prioritization process and the scheduling process, that's all here in this collection step or collection process of this workflow. The processing part of this workflow, and the organizing or organization part of this workflow. So these are the 3 very important and main steps of this technique, of this Getting Things Done strategy. The reviewing and the doing section is rather important for keep the system going. So reviewing is important to help you to stay on top of all the things that are going on. It's as well a very important. It's really a very important step to keep the system on running and prevent it from stopping. And the doing process, well, it's pretty straightforward. Just the process that says, okay, you are fulfilling the task that you planned, of course. And we'll take a look at all these steps into more detail in the following slides. Before taking a look at the actual process parts, the phases, we need to know what is our equipment. Well, and basically, getting things done is based on 4 lists or 4 places where you can put all your tasks and all your information in. There is at first the action list. This is a list that comprises or that contains all of the next possible actions that you're going to do. And it's just a list of the currently active or the currently available actions that you're gonna take. Each action on this list, so each task that's on this action list, might contain as well a context label. So a specific task can be done, for example, via a telephone call. So if you plan to make a call, then there the context label telephone would be appropriate. As well, if it's a task that you can do using your browser, maybe the internet would be a good context for this task here. Or if it's a task that you can do offline or on the go when you're in a car, for example, then maybe the context car could be appropriate. So the context that you give here as a label really depend on your personal way of living. So where you would say, okay, these are the different areas or the different environments or the different, say contexts where you fulfill tasks that would enable you to bundle several tasks that you can do in the same context. So, for example, if there are several phone calls on your list for today, then maybe it might be a smart idea to bundle them to one bundled action, so that when you pick up your phone, you fulfill all the tasks related to phone calls, if that's possible, in one step. And that will help you to be more efficient there. Or helpful could be as well to distinguish tasks that can be done online or that need an internet connection in a certain way, and those tasks that you can do while you're offline, maybe when you're on a plane or when you're on your go, of course. Then maybe you don't want to fulfill tasks that need an internet connection, and that's why those are the offline context tasks, for example. So those context labels that you give here, well, it really depends on your own preference. Well, the first important list here is the action list with all the currently active or currently interesting tasks. Second one is a list of projects. A project is a more complex task, so a task with not only one single step but with multiple steps, and everything that has multiple steps is considered a project. And those projects are filed into or onto a project list. Third one is the calendar. Not actually a list, but maybe it's a list of appointments if you want to consider it like this. But the calendar is your place to put on time-specific tasks as appointments. Maybe that's, for example, the task to meet somebody where you have an appointment or to speak to somebody. As well, a phone call could be probably not just on your action list, but an appointment in your calendar if it's time specific. And last but not least, the fourth list is the waiting for list. So the list of all those tasks that could not be performed and fulfilled by you directly, but those tasks you have delegated to someone else, but you want to keep track on the progress of this task, so you need to follow up those tasks and put them onto your waiting for list. So your task is then to get through this waiting for list regularly, to follow up those tasks, to keep on track of those delegated tasks, and to monitor the progress of fulfillment for them. So if there are tasks you delegated and where it's not necessary to follow them up, maybe it's not on your waiting for list anyway. Next up is that for those 4 lists that we took a look at, there we need to know what a project actually is. So I already told you that a task with more than one action is a project. Yeah? So where you identify that each idea that you have, each task that you take down that is not exactly actionable, needs to be divided into multiple steps, into multiple actions, so that are really actionable. And if you have them, then you can bundle them to projects, and you need to take them down onto your projects list, of course. Important here is that each project that you list or that you have there needs exactly one next step. One next step that can then be put on your action list. So therefore you ensure that for each project there you identified one explicit action, one specific action that is on your action list and that you could fulfill at the moment if you want to care about the specific project. Important here is that you ensure that no project will stop because of a missing next action, of a missing next step. You ensure that all of your projects are running. And of course, each of the next actions on your action list may have as well a specific context then, which is not necessary for the other tasks of a project where you don't need to take down or to associate it with a specific context label. But those on the action list, there it could make sense to give them certain context labels, of course. It's important for you to keep track of all of the 4 lists, so the action list, the project list, your calendar, and the waiting for list regularly, so that you need to review all of these lists on a regular basis, and this can be done on a daily basis, and a full review of all the lists should be done at least weekly. So regularly, but not necessarily too often. There's one important rule to obey within the Getting Things Done system. As the Getting Things Done system is a workflow, a process where a task goes through several steps from the filing of those, or the identification and collection of these tasks, by processing these tasks, to ask questions about them, identify them as actions or appointments, etc., etc. This is something that takes a bit of time. And if a certain task that comes in is a task that can be done in a very short time, where you would say, okay, it's not worth going through all these steps of the Getting Things Done system, but you could do the task, you could fulfill the task in a time that is shorter than that, then you should avoid putting it into your getting things done system and process it through all the workflow steps. It's rather a good idea to do the task immediately. So you can take care of that immediately. And the recommendation for that is to consider it as a 2-minute rule. So that each task that comes in that could be fulfilled within 2 minutes at most should be done directly without thinking about further processing it within the GTD system. Tasks that cannot be done immediately, but in a later moment, so where you want to postpone it, should be stored onto a resubmission system. So you could, for example, have it on an additional list for postponed tasks. So it's nothing you should have on your action list because it's nothing you want to care about immediately, but you can file it into a project, for example, put it in a project list if it's a project, or you start having an additional list for resubmission purposes. So that this could be a 5th list, maybe, depending on the system, how you really manage your tasks. This could be a 5th list, but not necessarily. Those tasks that you consider to do not immediately, and you're not planning to do this when you have it on your resubmission system, you should file it onto a someday list. You should put it into a folder or put it into a list with ideas. With ideas, suggestions, visions, so for long-time goals or ideas that you should review regularly and decide on a regular basis whether you would consider this task to move it onto your action list or move it into a project, or you delete it, you eliminate this task because you think, okay, it's not that necessary to do, so I would remove it as well from the someday list, or you decide to keep it onto your someday list or someday system part, someday category, whatever. Okay, so the prerequisites are clear. We have our lists and we know what projects are, and we know as well that this 2-minute rule. So now we'll get into the 5 steps of getting things done. And the first part of the getting things done workflow is to collect tasks in a proper way. Therefore, you need a certain kind of inbox. This inbox is continuously filled with everything that's coming in. So with emails, with physical mails, with something somebody tells you to do, for example, via phone call, or if the boss enters your office, then that's something that has to be placed and has to be collected within a certain kind of inbox. In an ideal world, you would have one real box, one real inbox, and really just one where you put everything into that comes in. In the real world, it's seldomly the case that you just only have one inbox, because the actual physical inbox where all your physical mails can get in, or just a note where somebody tells you something to do and this note can be put in, that is something that can be collected within your physical inbox. But when considering emails, it's not that a good idea to print them out to put them into your physical inbox. It's rather it's a better idea to leave it into your email inbox, and consider as well this email inbox to be your inbox as well. A good idea anyway is to keep the number of inboxes that you have to keep track on very, very small. So I would suggest to at most maintain 3 inboxes. So a physical one for really just those piece of paper, physical mailings, books, or physical notes, to keep them on one place, to have them into one physical inbox. Then additionally as well, of course, your electronic information that you collect should be in one specific inbox. So take, for example, your email inbox just as one of those inboxes where you collect everything. And maybe a third one for those notes that you take during phone calls, during meetings, or when your boss enters your office and gives you a task. Well, then you can decide to take it down onto your tiny piece of paper and put it into your physical inbox, or you have another filing system, for example, a note-taking app on your smartphone, tablet, or PC. Then these 3 inboxes, at most 3 inboxes, are the lists where you put everything, really, I repeat, everything that comes in should be collected into these inboxes. You afterwards continue by processing those tasks and those items that you have into your inbox in the next phase, the processing phase. Important is you're not continuously looking at those inboxes and directly process everything. The continuous process is just the filling. Every time something comes in, you directly put it into one of those inboxes. And you empty those inboxes by processing every item that's on those lists on a, for example, daily basis or twice a day. Now proceed to the process step. So after you have everything collected into your inbox, you're going to need to take every item that's in your inbox and process it. Ask several questions about these items, about these things, and decide based on that where to move all those items to. Whether you should move it to one of the lists that you prepared, or should you eliminate that item that's into your inbox. So that has to be done in this task, or in this process, sorry. So the first question is, you have to decide what it really is. So is it something where you have to care about? Should you do something about it? If the answer is no, then of course eliminate it immediately. But if it's something where you have to care, then there's the next question. What is the next action? So what can you actually do to do something about it? Is there a task, a real action that you have there? Is it actionable? Well, then, if you know what the next action that you can actually do is, then you can ask yourself if there are multiple tasks related to this. So do you need to do multiple actions, multiple steps to fulfill the task, to really do everything about this item that were in your inbox? If yes, if there are multiple actions, then file it as a project. So create a project onto your project lists. Well, if no, then proceed, of course, without creating a project. Then, is there the 2-minute rule interesting for this? So is this next action that you identified doable within 2 minutes? Then you apply the 2-minute rule and you do it now, immediately. Next question. Can someone else do this? Maybe it's something that comes into your personal inbox, but there's someone else that should care about it. Then you should delegate the tasks. You should delegate this next action and move this onto your waiting for list, because you need to follow up, to keep track on the progress of this task. I remarked before that probably you can move some tasks, some actions to someone else you can delegate it without the need for following up. Then it's not necessary to do this, to put this onto a waiting for list anyway. But if it's necessary that you keep on track of the progress of these actions, of this task, then put it onto your waiting for list. Well then, if you have a task that you want to move somewhere, you have to decide whether you would preferably put it onto your action list because it's actionable and something you can care about immediately, or if it's rather an appointment, then put it into your calendar directly. And within your calendar, you can set a reminder when to do this task, of course, and if it's on your action list, then it's something you can work on immediately if you want. Then it's relevant directly. There are a few guidelines, so a few rules to obey when it comes to this processing phase. So while going through all of the questions and deciding where each item into your inbox belongs as an action or project, well then it's important to start on top of each inbox. So we apply here the LIFO principle, so last in, first out principle. So everything that's lying on top of your inbox would be as well the first thing to take and proceed. There's no need to prioritize the things that got in the first place. So that would be the FIFO principle, so first in, first out. So everything you put in first would be processed at first, before anything else. So therefore you would need to switch the whole backlog of everything in your inbox. That's not necessary. So just proceed from top to bottom. You always just process one element and not multiple. So one element at a time, one item from your inbox should be processed at one time. Most important part here, never ever put back an item from that inbox back to the inbox. So if you have it in your hand, if you want to process it, then do this and remove it from your inbox, and move it onto your action list or whatsoever. So process it directly, immediately, and then it's finished. Ideally, if you identified a next action, then move it as a next step into your context list or the action list. If you identified that for this item there's no action required, maybe it's not the right idea to just eliminate it entirely, but maybe it's something you want to keep track on for later. You want to use it as reference for reference purposes, and in those cases there's no action really required to deal with something there, but it's a good idea to file it as a reference material, so a place where you can file and archive everything that's interesting for you for later. Or of course you can throw it into your trash bin and eliminate it entirely. Or you flag it as maybe or sometimes to postpone it for later without giving a specific time where you want to deal with it. Now, third, the organize phase or the organize process step. There we take a look at these lists where we can organize our information, our items and our steps. Where there's at the first step, there is the list of next actions. This list of next actions comprises multiple contexts, and these contexts rely directly onto your daily schedule, so in which of those different contexts you are usually working in. And there could be, for example, just as an example, there's contexts like office, so stuff that you're doing in your office, phone, for example, a context as a label for all the tasks that are related to phone calls, for example, the home context for everything for your private issues or your home office maybe as well. An offline context for all of those things that can be done without the need for any internet connection. So for doing this on the go, for example. And the context laptop, or notebook, or computer, whatsoever. So things that you have to do using your computer specifically. So these are just recommendations, suggestions for specific contexts that can be used. For your specific case, it might be favorable to exchange some of those contexts. And maybe if you only want to organize all the things that you can do in your office, of course, there's no need for a specific office context or all of the other contexts. So then it's not necessary to have those contexts. They are optional, but might be helpful to decide what to do at what time, because those contexts help you to filter your action list based on those contexts, to get out of your view, get some tasks out of your view that are not relevant at the moment at all. So this is the next action list. Next is the projects list. This projects list comprises multiple different projects, and each of those projects, in this case here, the project customer report or the advisory board meeting, these all could be projects because they comprise multiple tasks, multiple actions that are necessary to take, and tasks that are necessary to fulfill to complete those projects for you. And there it's necessary to have exactly one next action to take for each of these projects. And those next actions should be moved onto either your next action list as those actions that are important for you at the moment, or a calendar if they have a specific time, there's time specific, and there you can set a reminder for yourself. Or if you delegate this action or this task to someone else and you have to keep track on it because it's related to a project, of course you have to keep track of this, then you move it to the waiting for list. So each of those next actions are moved to one of those other lists there. Next action calendar, waiting for list. Now the waiting for list now comprises of all those tasks that you delegated. And you delegated to someone, so if you move something onto your waiting for list, you of course should as well add the responsibility, so the person you delegated this task to. Additionally, maybe you want to get notified at a certain time to keep track on this specific delegated task, then you should add as well a reminder by setting for example, a specific appointment onto your calendar. You can use a calendar or use any other method to set up reminders that help you to keep track on those projects and delegated tasks immediately without the need for a specific review, a weekly review, for example, to really ask for the current progress of those tasks that you delegated, if there are time crucial, for example. If there's a specific due date, then you use your calendar to set up reminders additionally. Well, now, and last but not least, no, that's not last but not least, there's something else following up, but well, of those lists that we talked before, there is the calendar, and the calendar comprises two important parts. So first, actual events, actual appointments where you meet up with people. So these are not directly tasks, but they are just time-specific things or time slots that are reserved for doing something specific. For example, the meeting. On the other hand, you put tasks onto your calendar which have a really specified start and end date, date and time. So all of those tasks that are completely scheduled, so it's clear and fixed when you have to start doing the task and when you have to finish doing this task, then it's something that you as well take down into your personal calendar. And if you want to get reminded, if there's an alert, or if you want to get notified for a certain thing at a certain time, then it's something that you put into your calendar as well with a reminding function within your calendar. That's related to those delegated tasks, for example, where you can set a reminder by getting yourself notified by your calendar, by setting an event for the notification for the following up of a certain delegated task into your calendar there directly. So now, last but not least, these are the two places where you put something in that's not going to be processed shortly. So there you have at first the area where you put those sometimes task into, and the reference area. So the sometime list comprises all those tasks where you decided, well, you're not going to do this directly immediately, and you do not plan to do it next week, for example. So you didn't specify a specific start time, or you didn't plan actually when you want to do this, when you want to care about these things. But you decided that you might want to take action on this at a certain time. So you put everything related to this to the sometime area, and based on the regular review that we have to do, we take a look at this sometime list and decide whether we would change the state, so move that to one of the other lists because you decided that you want to do something about it directly, or you want to schedule this directly to another date and time and move it off from this sometime list, or you decided to eliminate this because you said, okay, it's that long until this sometime list, you didn't care about this. It would be a good idea to just remove it from there because you will not take action on this anyway. Or you decide to keep this onto your someday list. And secondly, the reference area, it's just a not clear defined way of archiving your stuff. Therefore, in another course, I showed you the A4 information system technique for task management. There are several differently colored folders presented on how to file up all your tasks and all your items in a more appropriate way to keep track on those things that are not directly related to tasks, right? So for example, your address book, contacts, maps, etc. Or your long-term goals maybe as well should be filed up in a very systematic way. And this A4 information system suggests a way to organize your reference area. But anyway, your reference area is just a place where you put everything in that you consider to be interesting, but not leads to certain action that you have to take. Important for the reference area is that you file everything up into a way that allows you to find things as fast as possible. So that's the requirement for this specific reference area. And that's it. Now the fourth step of the GTD system is the review phase, where you have to do certain things on a regular basis. So for example, you have to check whether the contexts that you defined are correct, are right. So you go through all the different contexts and filter as well all your actions to see if everything you organized into your action list using those contexts are filed in the right way and organized in the right way. You as well check your calendar to make sure when you have time to do your task, or when you have certain kind of appointment into your in your day, and you check your calendar not too often, not too regularly, but on a daily basis, for example. In a not so often, but anyway regular basis, you should as well check your specific appointments. For example, you check the appointments for the upcoming week. You need to remove tasks that you fulfilled. Maybe you move it to an archive for later reference, but you remove it from the other lists, the action list, the project lists, the calendar, and as well from your waiting for list. You ensure that each of your projects have exactly one next action or next step that you can put onto your next action list. Maybe you fulfilled several tasks of your action list, and then, the specific task is done and a project might have a missing next action. Then during your, for example, weekly review, you need to define which is the next step. For projects that are going faster and need faster reference, then you need to ensure that there's a next step for each project, maybe as well on a daily basis. You as well need to process your inbox, so everything that's coming in will be processed. That's something that you do at least on your weekly basis, but could be done as well on a daily basis. So the first thing in the morning that you're doing, or the last thing in the evening, could be to process everything, every item in your inbox for further working on it, for defining your next action list, etc. And you take a look at all the tasks that are there, and you decide whether it would be a good idea to reorganize your projects list. So if there's only one item left on a project, maybe it makes more sense to remove this from the projects list and get over to the action list. Or if you think, okay, there's a task that is indeed made up of multiple steps, something that you didn't care about earlier, then it would be a good idea probably to create a new project. Or if you know that there is a new project in your life which is not as a result of something that's in your inbox, then it would be a good idea to create new projects. For example, personal goals could be one of those new projects that you defined, that you created during your weekly review. So it's not fixed to do those reviews on a daily or weekly basis. So you have to decide what rhythm would be most appropriate for you. But it seems to be quite feasible for most of the people to have a daily routine for checking your tasks and a weekly one, more detailed one. Last but not least, you're getting into the doing phase, the doing process. And there, of course, you take a look at all those tasks onto your action list and all those appointments into your calendar, and then you start processing. You then sorted list. Of course, if you have a long list of currently interesting actions, then it might be necessary to again prioritize those tasks and decide which is the next step you are going to do. And that could be, for example, based on a specific context that you labeled onto those actions, onto the tasks, so that you say, okay, I'm now in the office, so I will filter my action list based on the context label office, and then I only see those tasks relevant for this specific context. Everything else will be done in another context. Of course, you apply another scheduling method, so the Alpen method, for example, as shown, to define this, to estimate a specific duration for each task and plan this smartly into your daily schedule. You can as well estimate the amount of energy you require to fulfill this task, and decide to, based on your biorhythm of the day, when you have the most energy available to fulfill a task and when to do one of those tasks at what time. And of course, the two dimensions, importance and urgency, you will decide that those important and urgent tasks should be done with high priority, should be done at first and now, and afterwards you're caring about the important but not that urgent tasks. Tasks that are urgent but not important should be delegated to someone else if possible, and those tasks that you identified as not that important and urgent should be eliminated at all. Now, we took a look at a specific task management system, so the Getting Things Done methodology proposed by David Allen. In a former course, I showed more easy to apply methods on how to keep track on the task that you're doing, how to keep track of the progress, so monitoring your projects by using the A4 information system technique based on differently colored folders, and the Kanban system, so based on a board with multiple columns representing the state where each of the tasks that you process will go through from left to right, which is very, very simple to understand, and that's why the ideal technique, I would say, for working on projects in a team. And you can combine those techniques with each other. So you can use the Getting Things Done system for your personal task management, to personally keep track on the tasks that are coming into a certain kind of inbox that can then be processed to decide where you should move each task to. So is it an action, or is it a project? Is it an appointment? Is it something that you delegate but keep track on? And based on this, you can as well apply the A4 information system technique to apply a very systematic and ideal system for the reference material to file in a smart way all your contacts, maps, some information that you regularly use, or some information that you want to keep but not going to use that regularly. So keep it separate from that, and as well keep track on your personal goals, so long-term goals, for example, or keep track on ideas and suggestions that you want to keep track on it, that want to file in a systematic way. So this reference material can be stored in a more systematic way based on this A4 information system technique if you want. And the Kanban system is ideal when you work on several to-do lists in a team, because it's so simple to explain and it's so easy to work on it in a team, while everybody in this team really understands the system and uses the Kanban board properly. When you can then take a task that you feel responsible for, or where you are responsible for, and put it into one of the inboxes, into your Getting Things Done system, and work on it. So you're free to, of course, change up those methods, to modify them in a way that it's more appropriate for your personal case. But those systems build up a very, very nice foundation for your personal information system, for your personal task management, to keep track on everything that you have to do and never forget about something again. When the next step once in the last part of this course series, we want to talk about methods on how to ensure a focused way of working. So how can we keep up our motivation? How can we avoid distraction, unwanted distraction? How to get into a state of flow, of working flow, where you will start doing something and actually don't want to stop doing this. And in this way, so being that focused and concentrated, using that time the most smart way to ensure that you get out the most out of you and work really, really productive onto things that require very concentrated work. And bundle the other things, so the rather shallow work, into chunks and time intervals that are more appropriate for those kind of tasks, where some distraction is okay and is acceptable. So we want to talk about how to keep up motivation, how to stay focused, and how to overcome the unnecessary postponing of tasks, so to overcome procrastination here. So now, thank you for now, and see you in the next course.